And a very good morning and good afternoon to everyone that's watching in right now. And a very special hello to the time travelers that will be watching this recording from the future. Let me start off with a little self introduction of who I am and what I'm doing here in Beijer Electronics. So, my name is Rico, and I am the product specialist for data communications products in Beijer Electronics. I'm stationed here in Melbourne. It's a very snowy morning today in Melbourne. And what I do here is I work with a lot of different customers with the different data communication needs, and which is why a lot of this information that I have prepared today comes from all the customers that I've talked to. And to start off with what we'll be talking today, when you registered, you probably see the title Smart Cities and a Secure and Connected Future. So, what we want to do today is we want to talk about more about why it is important for us to start thinking more about smart cities and work towards a smarter city, starting with the technology that we use now, because all the things that the smart city promises to do will help improve our lives and also improve our planet as well and our environment. So let me get into the things that we'll be covering today in this webinar. Number one, we'll be talking about smart cities and why they are important and what makes them smart. Number two, we'll talk about the current and future trends of smart cities and actually the challenges in terms of implementing them. Next, we'll go into the principles, the key principles of smart cities, and then how they are actually used in the real world. Finally, we'll move into how us, Bay Electronics, now we let us start this journey into a secure and connected future with our smart cities, of course. To begin with, let us now take a look at what are smart cities and how they actually are important and what makes them so smart. So, why are smart cities important? It's been projected by several different sources all around the world that by the year 2050, the total population that will be living in a city will be 68%. That is a very large chunk of humans, people staying in the cities. And why is that important? Because with more people living in the city, it affects our safety. It affects the time we use to travel around. It affects our health. As you have seen over the past few years, it affects our environment with the sewage uses, the greenhouse emissions, and things like this, and it affects our lives in a total aspect. Why are smart cities important? Because if smart cities are done right, it actually helps bring down the cost of living, it increases our safety, it decreases the time we spend in things like commuting, and we can spend more time with our families and friends. And then we also have better healthcare, better environment to live in, and better job prospects as well, because we are able to actually create more jobs, higher end jobs with smart city implementation. So what makes a city smart? So there are a few uh, companies and uh, researchers that are trying to put a name or explanation on what is a smart city. But this one from McKinsey actually is the one that uh, resonates most with me. So basically, to them, smart cities allow us to actually gather insights from data and through data and technology, and then it helps us to make decisions and improve the quality of life almost immediately, as long as we are getting live and real-time data. And more comprehensive data, like I mentioned just now, gives us the ability to see things unfolding almost in real time, and we can actually understand patterns, things like this. So a good example would be having your buses connected you can actually see where live location, where the choke points are, where you have the most number of commuters, and then the sector that's in charge of the buses or the planning of the bus routes can actually increase the capacity in certain areas with shorter bus rides, and that can actually improve the way commuters actually commute and cut down in time and emissions as well from the jams. Before we move into the next section where we will be talking about some of the trends, the key takeaways from the previous section that I want you all to have is that we actually need to have a lot of data collection in terms of big data, and then how we use that data is very important, and I do have more examples moving forward. So now let us move into some current and future trends of smart cities. The current and future trends of smart city are broken down into several key verticals that ourselves have actually worked with and what we have seen. So number one, we have intelligent transport systems. So in intelligent transport systems, the idea is to actually cut down in traffic, make traffic smoother, improve in road safety, things like that. Next is actually public transportation. So public transportation, we have worked with several different public transportation companies as well to improve the installation in their buses, providing Wi-Fi to customers, providing connectivity for their systems to actually report their real-time location, things like this. And in order to actually cut down with all the different route plannings and things like that. Waste management, we see a lot of customers, or we see a lot of projects that are putting out with more and more different kind of smarter waste management systems, from getting smart bins, installing sensors in the bins, and or also a completely new waste management system, which is getting more and more popular, and something that we have worked with, which is the pneumatic waste collection system that is collecting waste with vacuum tubes instead of physical buses going around to collect those as well. Security and surveillance, throughout especially the last few years, excuse me, we do have a lot of more security and surveillance projects coming up. It keeps us safe. You can actually do that. A lot of projects involve making sure people are wearing masks at the transportation area with AI technology, facial recognition, and also smarter cameras that can detect flames, fires. If someone lights up in an area that they're not supposed to smoke, things like that. Health and environment monitoring. We see more people aware of their health, smarter health technology like Fitbit, Apple Watch. Then there's also large-scale environmental monitoring. So a lot of sensors are installed all around the world, all around the cities, to pick up weather data, to pick up air quality data, to pick up noise pollution data. All this data actually helps the municipals or municipalities, in this case the city, the people who are in charge, to actually make better decisions. And then besides these several different verticals that we have seen, we also see a very big overarching commonalities in all of them in terms of general specifications when the information are put out. So such as there's a lot of big data involved, big data in the sense that a lot of customers, a lot of projects now, what they want to do is right out of the boot, they want the data to be collected. And then we have open data. A lot of municipals out there, a lot of different cities have their data published online, readily available with their APIs. And I'll also explain this slightly later in my presentations. So why this is very important as well. And a lot of places are focused, or a lot of specifications has been writing in more about how important interoperability is. Interoperability is basically making systems work better with each other. In this case, for example, if if you start with a product from company A, and all the protocols they're using, all the communication methods they are using is all proprietary. That means they can only work with their own products. And once you start with that, in the future, if you would need to expand the system or change the system, you cannot have a more competitive company come in, or a better technology maybe coming in, because it's much harder to integrate between older technology or a closed up technology with something that's more open. So, which is why interoperability is very important, and why things like ITXPT, which is a IT and public transportation standards, have been pushed out by a lot of different cities, citing that we need this in order to put it in our buses to get it future ready. MQTT, very popular protocol right now for data, especially for data collection, because of the lightweight, and a lot of different companies, a lot of different municipalities are focusing on getting each companies to also provide APIs, so that different developers coming in can easily start using all the data that they have actually started collecting with the system. And of course, with the implementation of more sensors around the cities, you get more need for wireless monitoring devices that is actually low power, because a lot of the locations that these are installed are not typically easily accessible. It might not have very good LTE or 4G coverage, which is why low power wide area wireless solutions getting more and more popular. And very importantly, cybersecurity as well. So cybersecurity used to be a good to have in the past, but right now it's slightly starting to move towards something with towards must have. A lot of different uh, specifications out there has started to actually focus on, we need this particular standard, we need this particular cybersecurity feature in order to pass, to actually have more security on our system, and we want this in our system, we want this in our specifications. And these are some of the trends and things that we are seeing right now, and probably grow bigger in the future as well. And that will actually lead us to the next session. So before we actually move on to the next section, several key takeaways from the previous section I want to note down for you guys is, uh, the biggest thing right now, or a lot of people, the important things that people are looking right now are uh, big data, open data, interoperability. That means systems should work together easier, and of course, cybersecurity as well. And now we can actually move on to the next part and actually see some of the smart city principles in action as well. So first up, we actually have a example of a vacuum waste collection system. And why this is starting to get popular is because if you imagine, if you have been living in the city for the past few years, or even in smaller towns, how trash has been collected has been a truck moving from house to house, location to location, collecting the waste. The trucks are powered by fossil fuels. It comes with relatively high emissions. And having a vacuum waste collection system, number one, your living area can be more design more to be car free, vehicle free. That means heavy vehicles do not need to come in and collect the trash. Less emissions in the area, better living condition, and then you have less people working in terms of having to work that waste collection as well. And then sorted materials directly can actually be sent to different uh, exit nodes, exit locations directly. For example, food waste can be sent directly to the biomass plant to actually turn those into fuel, things like this. So it cuts down a lot of transportation, cut down a lot of greenhouse gases as well. And then next, I actually have two examples from Singapore. Maybe I've not mentioned this previously. So myself, I'm actually from Singapore, and the reason why I've chose this is because for me, it's something I have seen in Singapore, something that I have actually understood why is important for us. Hence the examples from Singapore. Of course, there are a lot of different examples all around the world as well. So in Singapore, some waste management facilities, one of the biggest challenges is pneumatic waste collection. Yes, they are great, but it's rather expensive to install in terms of you have to have the brand new infrastructure go in. That means that that itself has a challenge in terms of what implementation. So a lot of different cities around the world, or a lot of different companies start to do in other things. So what they do, they have a smart bin. They have sensors on board the smart bins, and then you can actually get dashboard information of all the different waste, how full each of the bins are, what are the temperature, and what kind of waste in each type of bin, depending on the bin sorting itself. And then with a smart bin, like you can see in this location, smart bin doesn't mean that they actually have a PhD or they are not a medical doctor in this case. But what actually is in a smart bin is actually they install sensors. I mentioned just now, it tells you how full you are. You can actually break down so many different kind of information with all this big data that they have collected. They can actually easily put this data into a visual form where you have seen just now to tell you where the key choke points are. They can also use AI technology to actually help with route planning in this case. So they can actually see which are the areas that have the most number of waste being collected. The bins are already full. You have your truck start there, move towards the trucks that have less materials collected, and then hopefully there will be more collected as well in this case. And all this is actually helped to reduce additional emissions with the trucks, because the route planning will actually help cut down this wasteful emissions as well. And the next example I have, again from Singapore, like I mentioned, is actually the intelligent traffic system. Actually, just one part of it in Singapore. So in Singapore, I believe all of you who are in this webinar, or people who are going to listen to this in the future, when you guys have visit the different expos, different trade shows, one of the biggest problem when you are going by car is definitely parking. 100%. I myself drove in Singapore. When we have different trade shows, it's almost very hard to find parking sometimes. But what they have done in Singapore is all the parking lots, like most of the parking lots in Singapore, have sensors built in of how much car available lots they have, and they actually put this information out into the public cloud as well. So when you enter the area, you can actually just see which location is best suited for you to where you want to visit, plus which one has the highest probability for you to actually find a parking lot. All this as well will help you cut down on unnecessary greenhouse emissions with going to a parking lot, queuing up, things like this as well. And then the important thing I wanted to highlight here as well is the Singapore government actually publicly publish all this data, because it's not sensitive at all. How much parking lots available in total, how much is being used, things like this online. And they have set up a dedicated site with dedicated APIs to actually allow developers to get this data and use it. Now, in your mind, you might be wondering why you actually have what is the actual need of this? Why is this important in this case? Because for me at least, I've seen that having open data actually allows more innovation to actually bloom in this case, because when you have open data that is publicly available for people to use free, you get more people, more developers on board, and for them to actually create apps for you. So if you, for example, very easily in Singapore, you have at least 4 or 5 different kinds of parking apps to tell you which are the different or the available parking lots all around the area with live data. And with this kind of openness, you drive more competition between each of the developers. That means that at the end, when there are competition between developers, they want you to be on they want you to have your app because they do get some revenue from with you having that app. So they will try to make it better, make it more user friendly, make the data easier for you, better for you to understand. All this allows innovation to strive, and then we get better products. We get better products because of this openness in data. And that is actually the end of the section where some of the principles we have in smart cities. And before we start, now we can actually see how the next session we will be actually going through how us at Beijer Electronics can help you in this case. So remember the previous section, the key takeaway that I want you to have is more companies or more cities are looking into newer ways of waste management. Open data, big data collection is very important, and having open data allows competition to flourish, and then therefore gives us a better end product to the users, better use of the data as well, and that because of that competition. So now let us move into how we can actually help you. So for a lot of you guys watching, you have been probably working in the automation industry for several years or maybe several decades. The biggest problem we have right now is our infrastructure. Most of the city infrastructure might have been built several years ago, before this interoperability came in, before the IT sector big data started to come in. So how can we help is that even though you have a older, slightly older infrastructure with all your different sensors, PLCs that you've connected that are not IIoT ready or not IoT ready, depending on how you look. Where we can help is from our large numbers of, basically we have a very large library that can support several different industrial protocols. And with our Box 2 and X2 series, we are actually able to convert all this industrial protocol into a IT XPT, into a IT standard or a industrial 4.0 standard, which is by using it MQTT. And MQTT is readily available to connect, publish to data repositories such as AWS, Ali Cloud, and Microsoft Azure. And that is how we can help you. Remember the very first point that one of the very few points I have previously was interoperability. So having this flexibility helps you with interoperability. And also it helps us to decrease quite a bit of waste, because a lot of this equipment we have existingly in stock, they are still working fine. Why should you remove it? You can just basically add a single new component, convert it into something newer, and then publish it to the cloud. Next, again, interoperability. We have a lot of customers coming in. Oh, we need this standard. So us at Beijer Electronics and Cornix, we are actually able to provide switches that are already ITXPT certified. That means that if you have a customer who is in transportation and they have a specification, we say, I need ITXPT. Boom, we have our switches for you readily. And if you have different needs in terms of cybersecurity, us at Beijer Electronics, we have layer 2, layer 3 managed switches with several different security features that will help you secure your network, give your customers a better ease of mind. And these three are just a very small example of what are some of the features that we have on our switches as well. And of course, like I mentioned as well previously in one of the slides, surveillance is getting big. We have a lot of power over Ethernet applications coming. We at Beijer Electronics, we have M12 PoE switches. We have the DIN rail mounted PoE switches. We have rack mounted PoE switches, and all the PoE functionality that builds in actually allows better management of the camera. We have a time management system directly on the Ethernet switch. That means you can power off equipment that you don't need within certain timing. That saves us energy, that helps the planet. And then you can actually manage the power budget in terms of how much power you want to use per switch because of your power source. And of course, we have several different protection built in. We have the PD Alive check, meaning that we actually do a periodic check with the equipment to make sure it responds correctly. If not, we will power down and power up the cord. What does that bring you? It brings you a better experience in terms, sometimes the equipment just needs a quick reboot. We'll do that for you. You don't need to actually send a engineer down and waste that fuel, waste that traveling time, cut down costs for you as well. And of course, we at Beijer Electronics and Coronix, we have our the low power wide area network solution as well with LoRa in our mix in this case, which has been quite a hit with some of our customers because we are able to provide a point-to-point and a point-to-multipoint connection that is RS485, powered by RS485. And just an important key takeaway is that when you read at specifications, it's important to know that we support LoRa and not LoRaWAN as well. And with that, we are aging towards the last few parts of this presentation. So before I move on to the last section of the last two sections of this presentation, key takeaways from the previous section that I want you guys to have is that we at Beijer Electronics have the right equipment in terms of converting older OT protocols and make it IT ready. We have the right switches with the right security, with the right features, switches with the right features, as well as the security built in to actually help you. And moving forward to the next session, we'll be showing you in terms of how we actually have been helping some of our customers in terms of the successes that we have. So for us at Beijer Electronics, I've previously mentioned quite a few times in terms of pneumatic waste collection system. We at Beijer Electronics have been helping several different customers in Sweden with their control systems, with our HMIs, with our PLCs, and also our switches, of course, to actually drive all this pneumatic waste removal system. Besides that, we also have worked with several different partners, and one of our esteemed partners, Hexatronic, has started working with us, chosen us, because of our huge PoE portfolio that we are able to provide with them. They provide a very interesting solution where they have a single fiber and power core cable, and then they distribute that by air blowing, so it makes installation easy. And where we help them with very much is all our products comes with PoE that they have selected, and then with that they actually are able to distribute a PoE power through Ethernet on each of the individual sites they have installed as well. Another example, we have been working with several different companies in terms of onboard surveillance with our PoE switches, with M12, of course, and this comes with ITXPT certification as well. Again, more examples of onboard applications, because this is one of the sectors that we have been excelling in the past few years. And that will actually bring us to the last section of our presentation today. So key takeaways from the previous sector, we have been helping quite a few customers from all around the region in terms of magnetic waste connection, vehicles, and security with the vast portfolio that we have. So in the next section, we'll be going through in terms of the summary that we want to have and what are the key takeaways from the whole presentation for today. So let's jump in straight into this. So what have we talked about in this webinar? I think number one, we have seen a lot of application, a lot of places that are doing mass data collection, so big data. Number two, open data, like in the examples that I have from my home country, Singapore. The data that the government has that is not sensitive is actually open to the public with APIs. It invites developers in easier, and then it creates a competition for developers to actually create better apps and more useful apps for us with all this data, all this big data that they have collected, and they open it to us. Next, we have seen that the emergence of more people is pushing for interoperability. So ITXPT has been pushing out. MQTT is being talked about very much in this industry. The need for APIs is very much talked about in this industry. Cybersecurity is no longer nice to have; it's a must-have in some of this industry as well. So us at Beijer Electronics are actually ready with pretty much everything that is required in all these different sectors in terms of interoperability and cybersecurity. We do have the right products in our portfolio to actually help as well. So, and why do we actually need to focus on a smarter city? Like I mentioned from the start, smarter cities will allow us to actually reduce our carbon footprint and therefore, and hopefully make our our planet better for our future as well. So once again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining this webinar. Also, thank you for watching the recording if you are doing that. Thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation that we have put up. If you do have any more questions, you can actually just directly drop an email to info@beierelectronics.com. If you are looking for me, you can just replace the info with rico.lim, rico.lim at Beijer Electronics. Drop us an email, ask us a question, feel free. There's no wrong questions. There's no wrong doors here as well. We'll definitely try to help you as much as possible. And you can, if you want more information, you can actually check out our website, beierelectronics.com/webinar. We do have more webinars that are coming up. So feel free to sign up for any that are coming up. And if not, thank you all for your attention. I hope you guys stay safe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.